an annual training exercise with troops from Thailand, Japan, Indonesia, and Singapore, now joined by South Korea. I want to go ahead and go into this at this time. This is from the Asian Reporter. For those of you that like to go out and get Thai food in Portland, you can find a paper like this, and what they do is they reprint AP stories that pertain to news in Asia, or news pertaining to Asians, because that's their main demographic in terms of their readership. Singapore pilots adapt to life in Idaho. We'll show this on camera 1. And I wrote a report about this over at alexansory.com so you can get some of the background information. But the Singaporeans are being trained at an Air Force base in the state of Idaho. And so they're bringing in a lot of pilots and their families to train on these new fighter jets. The interesting thing about Singapore is where the APEC meeting was held recently, where the United Nations and Interpol talked about creating a global police force. Shortly afterwards, Obama announced that Interpol would be given diplomatic immunity to operate within the United States. So there are many decisions made by globalists taking place in countries like not only throughout Europe and China, but Singapore. Singapore is a very wealthy nation, and their military has been built up quite a bit by us. But the other reality is Singapore and China are also beginning to do war games together. And so the stakes are very high. A country that has ties to China militarily and through trade is being trained on U.S. soil in Idaho. And we're supposed to believe that this is okay, that this isn't perhaps part of something larger that we don't fully understand today, but in the future, we will. Going back into the regular stack of news, let's go down to this. By the way, Cobra Gold is the name of that exercise taking place in Asia, the largest war games ever in Thailand. U.S. to sell missiles, ships, helicopters to Taiwan. It's in the amount of $6.4 billion, including Patriot missiles and Black Hawk helicopters. The latest arms sales to Taiwan included communications equipment for Taiwan's F-16s. The deal includes 114 Patriot missiles worth $2.81 billion and 60 Black Hawk helicopters worth $3.1 billion. China accuses U.S. of arrogance over Taiwan deal. The state-run China Daily and the Global Times also warned that China's threats of retaliation were real. The Obama administration approved the $6.4 billion arms sale to Taiwan last week. China has warned of serious harm to relations between the two powers, the suspension of military contact, and sanctions against the firms involved. The U.S. has said it will go ahead with the sale anyway. The Global Times, which is run by the People's Daily, the Communist Party's propaganda mouthpiece, said, and I quote, "It is time the U.S. was made to feel the heat for the continuing arms sales to Taiwan. It would be folly to underestimate Chinese unity over the Taiwan question. Punishing companies that sell weapons to Taiwan is a move that would be supported by most Chinese." End quote. That is from the People's Daily, the Communist Party's propaganda mouthpiece, straight up from the CCP. The People's Daily said in a commentary that the arms sales showed Washington's rude and unreasonable Cold War thinking. And again, I'm not taking sides here. I'm on no one's side in this situation. A lot of these people have worked together for a number of years. Our economy is intertwined with China. I talked to you about Obama giving China the B-2 stealth bomber blueprints, and then we can also go back to the Clinton administration and see the same stuff happening there. And we also can see some information about some sort of a deal that was made in Long Beach, California, given the Chinese control of a port. This is what my film's going to be about, to be released summer of 2010, before Red Dawn 2010 comes out in September. More predictive programming. The Chinese invade Detroit. What kind of crap is that? This is a movie Hollywood's bringing you. September 2010. You better believe it. You look at these video games now. Call of Duty, World at War. The kids are playing video games where they're fighting the next big war on American soil, on the interstates, which were literally created for the military. You don't think under martial law we're going to be able to use those freeways. And so it's important to understand the messages they're putting in Hollywood, in some of these television series like Jericho. It's important to understand why you're seeing what you're seeing. You can go back and look at, now there's this particular video game. I'm trying to remember the exact title. And it was made in 2005. It's called Shattered Union. Shattered Union you can watch on YouTube. And it's showing you D.C. getting attacked and the 44th president, attempted assassination on him. They made this in 2004, 2005. Who knows how long they were working on the script. They show you martial law, and they show you the attack on the United States. And there are many games now where you're playing these characters. You're in the Northwest. You're in Seattle. The Chinese are invading. And you go back and you look at the type of video games that were put out before we went to war. You'd see a lot of games involving people going into war in towns like Fallujah, towns like Kabul, the capital in Afghanistan. And then all of a sudden the war starts and it all seems too perfect. To go on to the next report, keeping in line with this particular report that we have this week, my report on this build-up towards World War III, even though they want you focused on the Stupid Bowl, they want you focused on American Idol. What else is on TV? Lost. I know Lost is very entertaining. And of course, there's always Pabst Blue Ribbon. I understand when there's no time for TV and you think you're alternative and you're riding around drinking yourself to sleep. I talk about these things not to insult you. I think these are issues that a lot of people are dealing with. We now know that a lot of stuff that we were talking about for years is now coming to fruition. It's not a matter of whether it's real or not. It's now that we know what's going on, what are we doing with this information? What solutions are you taking in your own life that you feel are right for you? Growing a garden, developing community, meditation, finding a way to hold your center in a world where they want you off center and off balance and totally distraught. Knowing that's a part of the game plan. Knowing they want you upset, depressed, sad, in a negative state of being in consciousness, it makes you want to live life even more. You see, I can't turn this stuff off. A lot of you ask me, like, do you ever go relax? Do you ever go do it? I would love to hit pause on the DVD of life and really immerse myself into an amazing relationship with someone. Have a child. Build a house. Get back into drawing. Learn how to play some musical instruments. There's another part of me that isn't expressing itself through this physical body at this time. But I have other talents. I have other desires to do other things. But for me, this is what I got to do. I got to let you know some of the stuff's taking place and hope you take this information and run with it. Not necessarily run to the hills, but understand that this information is vital to our survival in the new millennium. Our leaders are misleaders. We're literally being set up for a very dark future, but we can avert a lot of pain if we come together, if we're willing to trust one another, if we're willing to talk to our neighbors, if we're willing to talk to some of our family members, if we're willing to not let our egos get in the way, if we're willing to come together on the things that we all agree on. A lot can be done. We're running out of time. We'll continue with the next report. I believe it's Soros urges China to mend ties with the U.S. Legendary financier George Soros, he's the guy that said China should lead the New World Order about 2 months ago. He said that Wednesday China that must accept its role as a leading global power and improve its relations with the United States by being more open to external criticism. Soros, who's made billions from currency speculation, said China, the country that survived the financial crisis the best, had to take the reins to maintain the world order. He said good Sino-U.S. relations were vital to the world order, and their deterioration in recent months was a matter of grave concern. China on Tuesday warned Obama not to meet the Dalai Lama and threatened diplomatic reprisals over U.S. arms sales to Taiwan, widening an escalating feud between the world's top powers. Relations between the two countries were already strained over Google's threat to halt operations in China, which sparked a row over internet freedom and a host of trade and currency disputes. Okay, here we go. China denies involvement in Google hackings. We're going to segue here and start talking about what's going on with the internet. It's been announced recently that Google has been kicked out of China. Google has already cooperated with China to build the internet firewall of China, helping them literally